Okay, so here's something to think about. Montana's Flathead Valley, once a hub for logging and manufacturing, now gets nearly a third of its economic output from white collar industries like banking and real estate.
That's a huge shift. Let's dive into how this transformation happened and what it means for the region.
Welcome to DeActa Daily Digest. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Juniper. Here are today's top stories.
So, let's start with Montana. The Flathead Valley is a fascinating case of economic evolution. For decades, it was known for its blue collar roots logging, manufacturing, and other natural resource based industries. But now, white collar jobs are driving the economy, with financial and professional services leading the charge.
It's a big change, and it's not just happening in isolation. Statewide, the financial and professional services sector has grown at an average annual rate of 2.4% over the past decade. By 2024, more than 66,000 Montanans were employed in this sector, making up about 13% of all jobs in the state.
What's really interesting is how this shift is tied to broader trends. Since 2020, there's been a wave of in-migration to Montana, with people drawn to the state's quality of life. That's fueled demand for real estate, banking, and other professional services. At the same time, entrepreneurial activity has been on the rise, creating new opportunities in fields like healthcare administration, law, and consulting.
And it's not just about the jobs themselves, it's also about where they're located. Around 72% of employment in this sector is concentrated in urban centers where you've got larger labor pools, access to higher education, and professional networks. It's a stark contrast to the natural resource industries that once dominated Montana's economy.
Exactly. And the decline of those industries has been dramatic. Timber harvests, for instance, have dropped from 653 million board feet in 2005 to just 263 million in 2025. That's a massive decline, and it's had a ripple effect on local economies that were once dependent on logging.
It's a tough situation for the forestry sector. Earnings in the industry fell 5% in the second quarter of 2025 compared to the previous year. And while the average earnings per worker in forestry were around $59,000 last year, that's barely changed from 2 decades ago. Meanwhile, workers in finance and insurance are making nearly $95,000 on average.
That wage disparity is a big reason why so many people are gravitating toward white-collar jobs. And it's not just about the money, it's about stability and growth potential. The Montana Department of Labor and Industry projects about 6,700 annual job openings in financial and professional services over the next decade. That's a lot of opportunity for people looking to build a career.
But it's not all good news. The shift away from natural resources has left some communities struggling to adapt. Workforce training and education are going to be critical if Montana wants to ensure that everyone can benefit from this economic transformation.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating case study in how economies evolve over time. Now let's switch gears and talk about the NBA offseason. There are some wild trade scenarios being floated that could completely reshape the league.
Oh, where do we even begin? One of the big ones involves the Los Angeles Lakers potentially trading for Andre Gafford. The idea is to reunite him with Luka Doncic, who's now with the Lakers. Gafford would bring much-needed rim protection and pick-and-roll efficiency to the team, but it would mean giving up assets like Jared Vanderbilt and a first-round pick.
It's a move that could pay off for both teams. For the Mavericks, it's about freeing up cap space and getting younger players to build around. And for the Lakers, it's about maximizing their window with Doncic. But as always, there are risks involved.
Then there's the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are in a bit of a financial bind. With rookie extensions kicking in, their payroll is set to skyrocket. One proposed solution is trading Jalen Williams to the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets would get a potential franchise player, while the Thunder would get some much-needed salary relief and future draft picks.
It's a tough call for the Thunder. Williams is a phenomenal player, but keeping him could push the team into luxury tax territory. On the other hand, trading him could disrupt the team's chemistry and long-term plans. It's a classic case of short-term pain for potential long-term gain.
And let's not forget the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're reportedly considering a blockbuster trade for Ja Morant. Pairing him with Anthony Edwards could create one of the most dynamic backcourts in the league, but it would mean giving up key players like Julius Randle and some prospects.
The risks with Morant are well documented, off-court issues, injuries, you name it, but his talent is undeniable. For a team like the Timberwolves, which has struggled to break through in the playoffs, it might be worth the gamble.
The Phoenix Suns are also in the mix. There's talk of them trading for Morant as well, which would pair him with Devin Booker. It's an intriguing idea, but it would come with a lot of financial complications, including a potential hard cap. And then there's the Detroit Pistons, who are reportedly looking at Kyrie Irving and Paul George as potential targets. Both are high-risk moves, but they could provide the secondary scoring and creation the Pistons desperately need.
It's a reminder of just how complex NBA roster building can be. Teams are constantly trying to balance short-term success with long-term sustainability, and with so many moving parts, it'll be fascinating to see how these scenarios play out over the summer.
Absolutely. Now, let's pivot to our final story. Trump's recent comments about the Abraham Accords. He's calling for countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, and Pakistan to join the accords as part of ongoing negotiations with Iran. It's a bold move, to say the least.
Bold is one way to put it. Trump's suggestion that Iran could become part of the Abraham Accords is particularly striking. He described it as a complex puzzle and warned that if a deal isn't reached, the U.S. could return to military action. It's a high-stakes approach that's sure to generate a lot of debate.
What's fascinating is how this ties into broader geopolitical dynamics. The Abraham Accords have already been a significant development in Middle Eastern diplomacy, bringing countries like Israel and the UAE closer together. Expanding the accords to include countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey would be a game changer, but it's also a massive diplomatic challenge.
And let's not forget the domestic implications. Trump's comments are likely aimed at bolstering his foreign policy credentials as he eyes another run for the presidency. But whether this strategy will resonate with voters or with the countries he's targeting is another question entirely.
It's a lot to digest, but it's clear that these stories, whether it's Montana's economic transformation, NBA trade rumors, or international diplomacy, are all about change and adaptation. Whether it's a small community, a sports franchise, or an entire nation, the ability to navigate change is what ultimately determines success.
Well said. And with that, I think we've covered all the bases for today. Looking forward to seeing how these stories evolve in the coming weeks.
Same here. Thanks for the great conversation.
Always a pleasure.